What is your name and rank?
Larry R. Mitchell, Sergeant, United States Air Force.
And where were you stationed?
I was stationed in Vietnam, in the Philippine Islands. I went back and forth from one to the next. I actually was stationed in the Philippines, but we made tours over to Vietnam.
Okay. And how old were you when you entered the war?
18.
Were you drafted to go to Vietnam?
No. I had a choice to be drafted, but I wound up enlisting out of college.
And how do you feel about the draft?
I think the draft is wonderful. I think it needs to be done today. To people today just that need to be drafted, it would get them straight in life.
Please describe a normal day on duty in Vietnam.
Tough. There was a lot of crime, a lot of evil people. The war was a horrible war to be in, and every day there was something different, something new that just made it a holy hell.
How did you feel about the U.S. involvement in Vietnam?
I understand the involvement with the war in Vietnam. I guess it had to be as it was back then, but I have a different opinion on war today, that we lost a lot of men and a lot of people in this war, and it's a shame. We as a government and politics, we should be able to avoid wars.
Were you injured while in Vietnam?
I was not injured, but I was in the hospital several times.
Okay. And did they send you back on duty, or were you sent home?
I was sent back on duty.
Did you ever get to enjoy the services of the USO while serving?
No, was not anywhere around the USO.
Okay.
Sorry to say. I would love to go away and do something that was a little more enjoyable than just the war itself.
What was your best day like in Vietnam?
Best day would be studying martial arts. Every day, studying martial arts. He kept all the guys that took it together with us. We had a wonderful time. It kept our minds occupied on something else, something we could enjoy. And it also gave us an extra way of fighting also.
What was your worst day like in Vietnam?
The worst day was seeing all the body bags of the men that died over there to come into the hospital. I was actually in the hospital with a bad case of hepatitis. And every day you just saw nothing but poor soldiers coming in body bags. It could nothing be any worse than that I've ever seen in my life.
What was it like to readjust to life in USA?
I really didn't have a problem adjusting. It didn't bother me as bad as a lot of my friends who I kept in touch with afterwards, but it had no problem whatsoever on me, no effect. But a lot of guys kind of got a little bit on the shell shock side.
How do you feel about the war in Iraq and Afghanistan compared to that of Vietnam?
The war in Vietnam was a lot more brutal. I think there was a lot more deaths in Vietnam. I think right now we should pull out of Afghanistan. That's my opinion. We're losing too many people, and I feel like we're getting nothing out of this war but the loss of soldiers.
Do you feel like cinematic depictions of this war and war in general are accurate compared to what you had experienced?
Pretty close to being the same thing. This war has a little more, with the soldiers being decapitated and the other things the soldiers are going through now. But they actually had the POW back in those days where there was a lot more men that were held as prisoners of war. As today, we're just losing more and more soldiers on the line.
Did you understand who or what you were up against at the time that you agreed to go into war?
Yes, I did. When I enlisted, we had a draft back then in 1966. But when I enlisted, I had no idea where I would be going. I actually asked for the other side of the world, and I got the other side of the world, the Far East. Not to my liking, but I knew the war was over there, and I just had to. I dealt with it as an enlistee. If I'd been drafted, a friend of mine actually got drafted and went where he wanted to go on the other side of the world. And I joined and didn't take care of me so much.
Did you ever consider shooting off a finger or toe in order to escape?
No, I never thought about any kind of suicide or nothing, but there was a lot of guys who actually acted like a child and would act like they are, how can I say that? They acted like a child, and they just couldn't handle the pressure in the situation. And some of them got out on this reason, but it never affected me that way.
Okay. And what did you think about those people that felt the need to hurt themselves to get out of the war?
I felt sorry for them because we all were thrown over there as teenagers, and it was tough. If you weren't out into the real world, the tougher world, it made it hard on you to be able to go to war like this and be stuck in a hellhole for 4 years and not be able to transfer it out after you 4 year time. Then you go home after that unless you re-enlisted. So it was tough, and I feel sorry for them.
Is there one memory that truly resonates when talking about all these memories in Vietnam?
The memories I have from Vietnam was good and bad. Good that I could serve my country, and good that also that I learned to take care of myself when we were thrown in as teenagers to go to war, especially in a foreign country like this. Some were bad. The Philippines that I was in, and right next to Vietnam, they didn't like the U.S. soldiers at all. They couldn't stand any U.S. military. They didn't want them being there, and you had to really be on your pins and needles there as to where I found a line you wanted to walk, because when you would go off base, your life was in your own hands, and you'd go out to sightsee or something, and things like that could really change in a heartbeat, just because you're a U.S. soldier.